You ready to hear me yell?
Can you also, on your phone, jump off the
Yep.
Wi-Fi?
Alright.
Can I stay on my computer?
Oh, we're live. Okay, cool. We're telling your followers that you started a live video. Hey. Hey, Instagram. Hey, Instagram. We're live. Facebook. Hey, anybody there? It's lunchtime. If you're watching this live, it's lunchtime. If you're watching this later on, welcome to the video. Today we're going to be going over the best stretches that you can do if you've been traveling recently. So if you're like me, whenever you get off the plane or whenever you finish up a drive, you feel really stiff, you're uncomfortable, your body hurts, you're kind of cranky. And so I find that whenever I'm in one of these situations, the first thing I do is start to move, and I just start stretching. So there's a few specific postures. I'm going to start yelling now so you can hear me, but there's a few specific postures that you can do in travel situations to help with relieving that soreness and that tension that you get as a result of traveling. So this is something that you can do either immediately before you get on a plane. So if you want to be weird like me and do yoga postures and stretches before you get on a plane, I think that's the best thing you can do is be proactive and be preemptive, or kind of preemptively do yoga in order to cancel out those aches and pains that you would get as a result of sitting. And then you also want to do it afterwards. At a minimum, you're going to want to do it afterwards because at that point, you're probably sore, you're probably stiff, things aren't feeling very good, and you want to get rid of that soreness. So today I'm going to go through a few postures that you can do as a way to help restore your posture after sitting, and also help to relieve any aches and pains that you have, specifically in your back, maybe a bit in your shoulders, and then also in your hips. You might feel some stuff in your knees too. So let's get to it.
Someone just asked if you can include some that you can do on a plane.
Yeah, that would be, yeah. So there are some things you can do on a plane. I'll kind of go into that, but that might be another episode. All right. By the way, if everyone wants to leave a comment and tell me where you're from, that would be awesome. We actually we're doing some workshops around the country in the next few months and over the coming years, and depending on where most people are, we're going to be visiting you guys. So if you're watching this video now, or if you're watching later on, leave a comment, let me know where you are, and we'll factor that into where we go in terms of our workshops. So leave a comment, let me know where you're from. First thing we're going to do is a child's pose. So once you get off the plane, once you get out of the car, and you get back to a spot where you can actually stretch or do yoga or work out, first thing we're going to do is a child's pose. And the reason for this is because your spine is rounded when you're in a seated position or when you're on the plane. So one of the first things that we want to do is make sure that your spine is neutral. So child's pose, your arms come out in front of you, arms are shoulder width distant. You're going to relax your forehead on the ground, and here your focus is on making your back flat. So if you typically do child's pose and your back is rounded, maybe it's something like, maybe your back is a little bit higher off the ground, you really want to focus on getting your back flat here. And your butt doesn't have to touch your heels. A lot of people think that you have to touch your butt to your heels in the child's pose, but not everyone has the mobility for that. So your focus here is on shifting your hips back as much as it is comfortable. If you have any pressure in the knees, maybe you have a past MCL injury or you're working around that, then you don't want to push too far here. But the point is, in child's pose, we want to get a nice flat back and hold this for a while as we start to get our spine back into a neutral alignment. So I'm also going to make sure that I'm tightening my abs here. So I'm focusing on kind of cultivating that muscle awareness in my abdominal area. Arms are straight, and then as I'm in the position, I'm also going to engage my upper back. So I want to feel the muscles between my shoulder blades engaging. And I'm going to do that by kind of lifting my arms away from the ground, or pretending to lift my arms away from the ground. And once you do that, you'll feel that engagement through your upper back. Finally, you're going to rest your head on the ground, just forehead relaxed. And you're going to stay here for, I would say, at least 2 minutes. And instead of making this restorative, a lot of people will make child's pose a restorative pose or a stretch. I want you to be really active here. So you can think about pushing your lower back toward your belly button and really squeezing your core. And that's gonna help stretch your back, which is what we wanna do in this situation. So we are simultaneously stretching the back, but we're also engaging the muscles that you didn't use when you were sitting. So we're engaging the upper back, we're engaging the core. You're also gonna feel some engagement through the hips. And again, this is gonna be 1 to 2 minutes. All right, and then after this, we're gonna come up. And by the way, I'm making these poses as efficient as possible so you can get through a really quick workout and then get into what you need to do after that. Especially if you're at the airport, maybe you're between flights or connecting flights, you're not gonna have a ton of time. So, we might not have time for a 60-minute workout, but if you have 10 minutes, then you can do a lot of good stuff for your body. So the next thing we're gonna do is a lunge. And I'm gonna have you actually stay down in a low lunge as opposed to going up into a high lunge. We're gonna sink as far forward as we can into the hips, keeping your pelvic floor area tight. So we wanna make sure that we feel that engagement through the lower abdominal region. You wanna feel the pelvic floor area, so the base of your spine, your lower hips, your hip flexors, and your transverse abdominal. So the deep level of your abdominal wall. And so we're in this deep lunge. And I want you to also make sure that you're engaging your hamstrings in your right leg. So we're really squeezing the right thigh, digging down hard through the right heel, and then squeezing your right glute so you feel those muscles starting to work. We're gonna feel a really nice stretch through the front of the left hip. And when you're sitting often, that muscle gets really tight. And if you're not careful, you can actually end up having issues with that, with your psoas, with your hip flexor. If you spend a lot of time sitting, you might end up having just little tweaks that will put you out for a week or two. It could just tighten up and get into a really bad situation. So it's a really good idea to stretch this muscle after those long trips, after you've been sitting for a long time. And then from here, we're gonna add in a little bit more. So we've got this really nice deep lunge. To make this even more effective, we're gonna add a side stretch. So left arm comes up, and you're gonna reach up and over to the left. Now, here's what I recommend you do. If you can get your right hand to the ground and you can stay up tall, then just use that. But if you find that your lunge isn't quite as deep and you need a little bit of support, put a block outside your hips to the right, place your hand on that block, and then use that to help lift up and over. And now we've got a little bit of support. We've still got a really nice lunge with good technique, right? We're not sinking into the back, we're keeping the core tight, but we also have a nice stretch through the ribs now. So from the front, what I'm doing here, I've got my basic lunge, and then I'm just going up and over with a lunge and a side stretch. So this is called a low lunge with a side stretch, and I can hold this one for a minute or 2 minutes. The reason why this is so great is, again, because we've got the stretch through the hip, and when I bend like this, when I reach up and over, when I bend to the side, that's going to get a deeper stretch through my psoas, and I'm also starting to get a stretch through the lats and through my arm and shoulder, getting my upper back involved because I'm actually lifting my arm overhead. So this is a really good way to counter sitting. So what you want to think of, let's switch sides, but kind of the theme of what I'm trying to discuss here is that you need to first bring back your body to neutral, and then you need to do the exact opposite of what you were doing while you were sitting. So first we got into a child's pose to work on getting your spine straight again because it was rounded forward, right, we were in flexion. And then after that, now we're getting our spine into extension, right? So we're getting a little arch to your spine. We're doing the exact opposite of what you were doing with your hips while sitting, which is the hip flexors were totally shortened, and now they're in a very long lengthened position. And then we're also, instead of staying neutral with the spine, we're still in flexion, we're also going to get some bending through the spine, right? So reaching up and over and getting a nice side stretch at the same time. And I would really recommend holding these poses for a minimum of 2 minutes. You don't have to be extremely intense while you're holding these poses. It's more so about just holding them at an intensity that you can manage so that you're giving your body a chance to open back up to counter what you've been doing, for those hours that you were traveling, whether it was on a plane or if you were driving in a car for a few hours. Maybe you've got a long commute. Maybe you live in LA and you drive 2 hours a day. Maybe you live in New York and you take the train. But the point is, we're trying to do the exact opposite of what we were doing when we were in those seated situations. So again, second pose is just this low lunge with a side stretch, holding this for 2 minutes, feeling the stretch through the front of the right hip or the back hip, and then also feeling engagement through the left hip. So at the same time we're stretching the right hip, we're also strengthening the left thigh. So we're trying to hold up our weight with the left leg. We're not just sinking into the right knee, all right? We're not just resting our right knee on the ground. We're actually putting most of the weight in the left leg. So you shouldn't feel tension in the knee, but you're welcome to put a towel or a sweatshirt or a rolled up t-shirt underneath your right knee, and that will help with reducing any pain in the knee you might have if you're kind of on a hard surface. All right, so there's stretch number 2. From here, we're going to go into a pigeon. So if you're more tight, if you're not used to doing yoga very often, pigeon might be a little difficult just because it does take some mobility. But for pigeon, we're working on stretching the glutes. You're going to bring your right knee to your right foot. Right knee, right hand. Bring your right foot across your body. Inner thigh starts to face up, outer thigh faces down, and then crawling your left leg back. Now, because we've been sitting here, sometimes in pigeon, right, you'll lay forward like this, and we'll get the spine in neutral. But because you've been sitting, what I'd like you to do instead is place your hands in front of your right leg, and then lift your chest up so that our spine is an extension. So we're doing the exact opposite of what we were doing while we were sitting, right? Hopefully at this point you're kind of getting the theme that we want to do the exact opposite of what we were doing while sitting. So here we're going to feel stretching through the outside of your right hip, your glute. You might also feel some stretching through the front of the left hip. And then I also want to add some muscle engagement here. So I'm going to squeeze my right knee toward my left hip and left hip toward the right knee. So I'm kind of squeezing in toward the middle, and now I've got my inner thighs engaged. So I'm using my inner thighs, I'm stretching my outer hips, and I'm also using my core, my erector spinae, those muscles that run up the length of your spine, starting at the base of your spine. So I'm engaging all of these muscles and getting my body active again and starting to counter what I was doing while I was sitting. If you want to add a little bit more here, you can also extend your arms overhead. You can also, here's a really cool variation, you can bring your hands behind your back, interlace your fingers, and you can do a pigeon with fingers interlaced behind the back. This is going to add a nice back bend, and this is also going to help with opening up the chest and getting your back muscles a little bit more active, which is something that doesn't happen at all when you're sitting. It's very difficult to do. All right, and then we're going to switch sides. So go ahead and switch sides. Now left leg is forward, right leg is back. And again, I want to squeeze my legs toward one another, so my left knee squeezes toward my right hip. Chest is lifting up because I'm not folding down, right? I want to do the opposite of what I was doing while I was sitting. And again, I've got my pelvic floor active, so I want to feel those muscles in my pelvic floor and that lower abdominal area engaged. Otherwise, I could have some pain in my lower back. And if you do have pain in your lower back in yoga, that's typically because you're not using those lower abdominal muscles. You're not using what's called mula bandha in yoga. I don't use those terms, but basically it means core engagement. So anyways, we want to make sure that the core is engaged. The right hip is squeezing toward the left knee squeezing back toward the right hip. That's also going to help square your hips. So it's an easy way to square your hips. And then again, you can bring your arms overhead if you want a more intense variation. You can bring your arms out in front of you if you want a little easier variation. Or if you want to challenge yourself, you can bring your hands behind your back and interlace the fingers and lift your arms away from your back. If you're less advanced, I would not recommend doing this shoulder variation with fingers behind the back, just because you have potential to use incorrect technique and round the shoulders, and we want to make sure the shoulders are open. But if you've been doing yoga a while and you have pretty good mobility, then interlace fingers behind the back is a good idea. All right, then go ahead and release that. And from here, we're going to stand up. So we've been sitting, we want to get upright. At this point, we've done a lot of stretches to help with undoing the flexion-based reality of sitting. We've helped to open up the hips. So now we can do a little bit more full body work. So we're going to go into a wide position here, and from here into a wide-legged half lift. So I say half lift, not forward fold. So if you look at me from the side, I'm going to just hinge my hips here and 5 seconds out. And if you're working into more restorative poses like a pigeon, or a lizard, then I would try to go even longer, maybe 8 seconds in and 8 seconds out. All right, so we finished with the wide-legged forward fold. Stand back up, keep your feet wide, and we're gonna go to a warrior two. This is one of the best poses for helping with hip mobility after you've been sitting for a while. So warrior two, your right leg turns out. We're gonna sink into the front knee, knee over the ankle, pressing your back hip into your front hip. Bring your arms straight out in front of you. And just because, let's get a little bit of a movement in here. So I'm gonna have you go from warrior two to a side angle, extending your left arm up, tightening the left side of your body, sinking deeper into this. And this is going to help with opening up your torso, which you really can't do anything when you're in a seated position with your torso. So helping to get that moving, also sinking a little bit deeper into your hips at the same time. And then flip this to a warrior two, to a reverse warrior. So we're gonna reach your right arm up, keep your right knee bent, extend your right arm toward the ceiling. Left arm is gonna slide down your left leg. And you wanna keep that weight in your right hip. So you should still feel your glute, your right glute doing a lot of the work here. And then back to a warrior two. And then from here to a triangle. So I want you to bring your, and this is the last variation, or kind of the last movement in this little vignette, or mini sequence. And then bend back into a warrior two, arms come back up, get right back to where you started, make sure you have good technique. And I also want to make sure that my spine is neutral here. So if my butt is kind of poking up behind me and my lower back is arched, that's going to minimize the effect that I get from warrior two. I want to make sure that I have a neutral spine so I can get a really good stretch through my groin, but also so I can properly engage my core. So I'm here in warrior two. Notice that my knee is tracking over my middle toe, arms extended in opposite directions. I should be able to feel my upper back engaged here. I'm not just lazily holding my arms out, I'm actually pressing my hands in opposite directions. And then from here, side angle, so reaching right arm up, left wrist comes inside the knee. And I'm not actually putting weight into my left leg here. My left arm is just kind of hanging out, right? Because if I put weight here and relax here, now I've got core isn't doing much. But if I keep that arm just kind of dangling there, now I've got my abs are tight. And we're also getting a twist through the neck. So make sure that when you're doing side angle or warrior two, that you're looking to the side. And then reach your left arm up. We're going to do a reverse warrior. Right hip pressing into your left hip. Your knee stays over your ankle. Your spine stays neutral. The hips stay in the same position, neutral, that they were before. Getting a nice stretch through the left side of the body now. But still feeling that engagement through your pelvic floor, through your thighs, through the glutes. And then back to warrior two. Hand inside, your left foot on the ground. Straighten your left leg as much as you need to feel stretch. Stretching the inner thighs. These muscles tend to get very tight when you're sitting. These are your adductors. They're very important to your back. If those muscles are tight, that can cause back pain. So use this stretch to open up your adductors and relieve back pain. And again, also getting that stretch through your neck, because we don't tend to do too much when we are sitting. And then take it back to a warrior two. Right back to where you started. Hips still under the torso. Back hip pushing into your front hip. Left hip strong and engaged. And then straightening back up. And let's end that there. So we did a lot of hip work, a lot of core work, and also some upper back work, right? So getting your upper back engaged, making sure that you're moving from this position of rounded shoulders forward to chest nice and open, and being able to feel and engage those muscles in your upper back, as opposed to feeling everything kind of in the front. Because when you're on a plane or when you're driving, right, there's no movement back here, there's no pulling, it's all arms in front of you doing stuff here. And that will tend to shift kind of your center of gravity to the front, and we need to get that out, we need to get that to the back. And then with the hips, almost everything that we did was focused on opening up your groin and stretching your hips. Because when you're sitting, your hips are really tight, right? We're right here in this position. Your quadriceps are really active, but your hip flexors are pretty much turning to mush. Your glutes aren't being used at all. So the poses we're focusing on when we are after our sitting or after that drive or that flight or whatever it is stretching those muscles that were tight in that seated position. And so this is important not just for people who if you want to avoid back pain when you're traveling. So you can do this before you get on your flight or before you get in the car. Just 10 minutes will make a big difference. But it's also really good for afterwards to helping with relieving that pain that you get from sitting in the car. And then finally, if you are active, so most of the people who are watching these videos and using these videos, yoga is part of what you do, but it's not all that you do. So it's really important that you do these exercises to complement what you're doing if you're spending a lot of time sitting, because you have to get your body back from that seated position of sitting forward like this with your hips tight to getting back into that open, neutral position where the hips are loose, right? They're loose and mobile. Shoulders are open, we've got proper posture, and that's going to help you with proper core engagement. That's going to help you make your hips more active when you exercise, and also exercising with proper form with your upper body so that you're avoiding shoulder injuries, shoulder pain, shoulder discomfort, and just exercising and preventing injury in general. So yes, being sedentary has a hugely negative impact on your fitness. So we need to use yoga to help kind of undo those sedentary effects and then get your body ready to exercise the way that you want to. So that's what I've got for you today. If you're in New York, we've got a workshop coming up April 21st. Go to the Manful Yoga blog at manfulyoga.com/blog to learn more. And we've got our Yoga Body DVD coming out on Amazon in just a couple of weeks now. So you're going to hear more information on that. If you want to become a Body by Yoga VIP, get early access, learn about the early bird sales, and get some other cool content that you won't see anywhere else, sign up for my or become a Body by Yoga VIP at manfulyoga.com/BBY-VIP. And that's what I've got for you today. Do we have any questions that I can answer before we get off?
Someone just had a quick comment. Maybe you can show modifications. Pigeon?
Yeah.
His knee wouldn't bend.
Sure. All right. So a quick modification for Pigeon. If you have trouble doing Pigeon, you can also do a reclined figure four. So you're going to lie on your back like this. You're going to bring the inner right thigh to face your body. So we're externally rotating the hip, getting the inner thigh to face you, the outer thigh to face away. Bring your left thigh in so that your outer right ankle is on top of the left thigh. Grab the back of your left thigh. So you're making a figure four with your legs, and then lightly press the right hip forward. Not pressing the knee forward, but pressing the hip forward and externally rotating the right hip. So getting the inner thigh to face you, the outer thigh to face away, and then just holding the stretch here. It also helps to reach your toes back toward your shin. So notice that I'm reaching my toes back toward my shin here, and that's going to help protect the knee. So that's a reclined figure four. That's the alternative to doing a Pigeon if you don't quite have that mobility yet. You can also use a wall to do that, and that's going to provide a bit more support.
Like a block.
You can also use a block. Yeah, so Edward's reminded me. So you can also use a block, or you can use a sweatshirt, or you can use a pillow to do Pigeon. And the way that you're going to do this is, if I'm stretching my right hip, I'm going to sit on the block with my right hip. So I'm putting my right hip on the block. That way I'm lifting my hips a little bit higher off the ground. And this is going to enable me to get a little bit more external rotation than I would typically be able to do if my hips were tight. So this way I'm able to get into Pigeon with less flexibility. I'm able to get my heel a little bit further away from my groin. By the way, if you want to lessen the intensity, you can bring your groin closer to you can bring the heel closer to your groin. To make it more intense, you'll bring your foot further away from the groin. So if you want to sit on a block, that will also make it easier to do a Pigeon. And you can also sit on a sweatshirt or a pillow, basically anything that will lift your hip off the ground to make Pigeon more accessible. And I think I have a video on YouTube for that, but I can't remember the name of it. I think it's called an awesome butt stretch, honestly. So yeah, or Pigeon for guys, how to do Pigeon for guys. Try searching those, and you should find those on YouTube. Any other questions? That's it. Cool. All right, guys. Well, thanks for joining me today. If you're not already subscribed or liking the page, Facebookers, make sure you subscribe on YouTube. I've got content there that you won't see on Facebook. And YouTubers, make sure you get on Facebook. Follow me there. You're going to see content on Facebook that you won't see on YouTube. Instagram. guys, get off Instagram and go to YouTube and go to Facebook. There's way more stuff over there too. And then yeah, if you guys want to also see more of kind of my personal life or kind of what I do on a day-to-day basis, I show that a little bit more on Instagram. So follow all three, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, because I do different things on each medium. And yeah, so that's it. Thanks for watching. And you've got comments, leave them. I will respond to them. Just leave them in the next couple of days if you're watching this. So even if it's Thursday or Friday, March 22nd or 23rd, just I don't know what the day is. Even if it's still early March, or wait, if it's Thursday or Friday of this week, March 22nd, March 23rd, March 24th, leave a comment. I'll still respond to it, and I'll try to help you out the best I can. All right, guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys on the next video.